I'm a huge fan of the Injustice games and comics, and was very hyped to see that the franchise finally got an animated version. While the movie has gotten mixed reviews across the board, I definitely found it to be a fun watch on a Friday night, and man, it was brutal. I love this R-rated DC stuff. DC is definitely Marvel's edgy emo older brother, and I'm so here for it. The Injustice franchise is known for killing off key characters in brutal ways due to the dark nature of the universe it comes from, so I wanted to compare the deaths of the characters in the movie to the comics to see just what was bloodier and overall better. We did a similar video like this comparing the deaths of the Suicide Squad members in the recent movie to their demises in the comics. You can check that out in the title card and in the description below. Without further ado though, let's get on with the violent R-rated goodness. If you have not watched the Injustice movie yet, or have not read the comics, be rest assured there are major spoilers ahead. Hey, you can even fire up the game and listen while we nerd out about this. Team Superman, all the way baby. Death number 1. Jimmy Olsen. Sadly, the first character to bite the dust in the Injustice film was everyone's favorite Daily Planet photographer, Jimmy Olsen. In the film, Olsen was investigating a high-profile deal going on between crime groups, where it ended up being all a setup by the Joker, who showed up out of nowhere and shot the poor guy right through his camera lens. The bullet went right through the dude's eye, killing him right on the spot, and leaving an awful bloody mess that even Joker complained about getting on his shoes. Man, Injustice Joker, he's on a whole other level. Jimmy was also not safe from the hands of death in the comic, for in Injustice issue 1, he suffered a near identical fate where he and Lois were investigating a supposed corrupt councilman. The politician ended up being the Joker in disguise, who opened fire, murdering poor Jimmy in the exact same way he did in the film. Rest in peace, Jimmy. Your optimism and fiery red locks will be sorely missed. Death number 2. The Flash. Being one of the biggest plot turns from the comic, the next and most surprising death in the movie was Barry Allen's Flash. After the Joker killed Jimmy Olsen and kidnapped Lois Lane in Metropolis, Superman and Batman recruited the whole Justice League to locate Lois and put a stop to the Joker's plans. Flash was tasked with investigating the Metropolis underground, where he came across a disturbing sight. He found a lab that contained former Batman villain the Scarecrow dead at the hands of Joker Toxin. Just before he could leave and regroup with the League, this is revealed to be a trap where Scarecrow's toxin is then pumped into the room. The gas then made the speedster temporarily immobile, where out of nowhere a buzzsaw comes out of a wall and launches right at the hero, slicing his head clean off. I was not expecting this at all, especially not to Flash and not so soon in the movie. My man, he deserved better than this. This is actually quite different from the comics, in which Flash does indeed discover Scarecrow's dead body at the lab, but quickly rushes back to grab Batman to show him what he had found. Injustice comic Flash was actually a major player in the story, as he sided with Superman's regime that lasted several years. I'm really surprised that they took this route with the movie Flash, and man, it was sad to see. Movie Flash just couldn't stay ahead of the Joker. Man, is that too soon? Yeah, totally too soon. Death number 3. Lois Lane, Superman's unborn baby, and all of Metropolis. Being the most pivotal point in the Injustice storyline, this is the most comic-accurate scene in the movie. After kidnapping Lois, who was pregnant with Superman's child at the time, Joker and Harley Quinn then pumped the room she was being held in with Scarecrow's toxin that was laced with kryptonite. Upon finding the room and breathing in the gas, Superman went in to save his wife, where he then saw what he thought was Doomsday ready to wreak havoc. Wanting to protect his family, Superman slammed into the creature, flying him up to space. The gas effect then wore off, where it is then revealed that this Doomsday was actually Lois, who then died from the attack. Upon her death, it is then revealed Joker had placed a detonator on her heart that activated when it stopped beating. The detonator was then linked to a nuclear bomb buried in Metropolis, which then went off, blowing up the entire city. Now, this is possibly one of the darkest moments in DC history. Not saying it's Batman's fault for never ending the Joker, but it is. It's definitely Batman's fault. This is a near panel-by-panel recreation of the scene in the comics, although I feel the comics definitely fleshed out the raw emotion much better than the movie. Either version though, we blame you, Batman. Death number 4. The Joker. The most deserved death in this series, which ultimately led to this universe's downward spiral into chaos, was the demise of the Joker. Upon the death of his wife, child, and his city, Superman then rocketed into the interrogation room where the Joker was being held to confront the madman for what he had done. Seeing that he had no remorse for his murderous actions, Supes went full Mortal Kombat and then caved a hole right through the Joker's chest, killing him right on the scene. Superman, not saying I approve, but I'm also not saying I disapprove. I think any dad or husband would have done the same thing. Good riddance, Joker. This also is a near direct recreation of the scene in the comics and even the Injustice game. I mean, they better not have changed this. It's like the defining point of the Injustice timeline. Gotta say though, the movie and comic versions are way better than the game. They full on showed Superman's brutality, where the game just cut to black. Come on, NetherRealm, we want to see Superman fatalities. Death number 5. Nightwing. One of the most tragic deaths in the Injustice universe comes from the fan favorite former Robin, Nightwing. After the death of Lois in his city, Superman took it upon himself to basically take over the world and enforce a tyrannical form of world peace. One of the first things he and Wonder Woman proposed was send all of Batman's dangerous criminals who were locked up in Arkham to a more secure, undisclosed location. Not about to let his baddies go, just for them to escape again, Batman, Damian Wayne Robin, and Nightwing came to confront Superman and the others, only for Harley Quinn to let the villains out of their cells, thinking she was helping. Seriously, Harley? What goes on in that brain of yours? You know what? I don't want to know. During the commotion, Damian Wayne got a little too into the violence and took out too much of his anger on Riddler, who was already defeated. Nightwing called Damian out on this, only for the kid to get offended and proceeded to whip his baton at Grayson, which mistakenly stuck him right in the temple, killing him instantly. Okay, first of all, ow. Second of all, Damian, what in the world is wrong with you? This death is also quite similar in the comics, except with one more very painful addition. After being hit in the head, Nightwing then fell to the ground and proceeded to snap his neck on a nearby rock. So, if he wasn't dead already, he was double dead from this. At least both did get to come back as a cool ghost guy though. Not even death could ruin this guy's day. I love you, Nightwing. Death number 6. The Atom. The next death in the Injustice film sadly comes from our favorite shrinking scientist himself, Ray Palmer, aka the Atom. With Superman's reign growing, Batman and a group of insurgents then plan to steal a Red Sun cannon from the Fortress of Solitude so they could incapacitate the crazy blue Boy Scout. Of course, things go wrong when Superman discovers that they are there and goes to arrest Batman and his gang of criminals. Having a backup plan, well, because he's Batman, the Dark Knight then calls out to the Atom, who had covertly shrunk himself down to microscopic levels and was then chilling in Superman's brain with a shard of kryptonite next to it, ready to end the guy if he were to try any kind of funny business. Just when it seemed like the coast was clear to snatch Superman's weapon right out his crib, Superman's new former villain buddy, Ra's al Ghul, showed up with a gang of soldiers, firing upon Batman and the others. Wanting to chum up to his new pal, Ra's hooked Supes up with a highly concentrated chemotherapeutic gas. Upon breathing it in, the mist then entered Clark's head and proved quite deadly for the Atom as it completely evaporated the man into nothing. Sheesh, dude. I mean, look at the smile on Ray. How could you do this to him? The scene is a direct homage to the Injustice 2 comic where he acted as Superman's warden when he was imprisoned, ready to kebab the dude's brain if he ever got out of line. His death was somewhat similar in the comics, except he entered the brain of Amazo instead of Superman in an attempt to shut the robot down. However, Amazo had a pretty advanced firewall which consisted of hundreds of tiny nanites, which severed the poor dude's leg. Batman then listened in on comms as the poor man was ripped apart by the tiny insects. "Rest in peace, Adam. We'll have a little funeral for you and everything. It's gonna be beautiful." Death number 7, Green Arrow and Pa Kent. No, not even our bearded bow-using billionaire was safe from the hands of death in the Injustice film or the comic. In the movie, Arrow met his demise after attempting to shoot a kryptonite arrow at the enraged Superman at the Fortress of Solitude, only for the dude to deflect it, causing it to plunge straight into the heart of his father, Jonathan Kent. Royally ticked off at Green Arrow for inadvertently icing his dad, Clark paid back the favor by using his heat vision to blast a hole right in Ollie's head. Now, if you thought this was brutal, well, the comic is even worse. In the comic, Ollie fires the arrow at Supes, who does indeed deflect it right into his father, except this time, it was in the shoulder, and just a mere flesh wound. Yeah, Pa Kent actually lived in the comics. Regardless though, Superman, not exactly in the best frame of mind, then leapt on Green Arrow and literally beat the man to death with his bare hands. "Bro, just one full-powered punch from you is enough to kill him. Note to diary, stay away from Injustice Superman." Death number 8. Those poor Joker acolytes. One of the most disturbing Injustice deaths, in both the comic and the movie, is when Superman is ticked off at followers of the Joker who had a rally in honor of their fallen king. Being tipped off that a legit party was being thrown in the Joker's honor, Superman confronted the teens, who called the dude a fascist and told him to get lost. One of the teenagers then had the smart idea of throwing a bottle at the Man of Steel, which only enacted his inner Homelander, which then caused him to burn everyone in the building to death with his heat vision. This is a near panel-by-panel recreation of the comics as well, where we legit see the teenagers burning to death. Man, that is so dark. I honestly think the movie version may just be a bit worse, because you can actually hear the screams of the people getting fried to a crisp. Hey, Batman, just a reminder, this is all your fault, bro. Death number 9, Hawkman. Hawkman, having the gift and the curse of reincarnation, is no stranger to death, but man, I'm sure he'll never forget his death in the land of injustice. In the movie, Ra's al Ghul constructed the robot Amazo to defeat the Justice League, whom he could copy the powers of. Superman was nearly killed by the android, but was then saved by Wonder Woman, Hawkman, and Cyborg, who assisted in the fight. While Hawkman totally meant him to go in for an epic hit with his mace, Amazo was just a little too quick and caught it. He then used his powers to mimic the mace, and even grew another one out of his hands, and then whacked the poor dude to the ground, and then curb stomped his head right in. Man, that was a death even Wilson Fisk would be proud of. His death was just as brutal in the comics, as the dude embedded kryptonite into his mace, and then went to solo Superman, where he brutally beat the snot out of the Man of Steel. Before he could kill him though, the Flash rushed in to save his mate, and then stole the mace from Carter, where Superman then punched him so hard that it twisted his neck around and killed him right on the spot. Jeez, Hawkman. Hey bro, next time you get reincarnated, stay out of the hero business, man. I don't think it's for you. Death number 10, Cyborg. Sadly, yes, even our boy Cyborg breathed his last booyah in the Injustice film as well. Promptly after Hawkman's murder at the hands of Amazo, Victor then tried taking the android out with a full-powered cannon blast, only for the dude to shrug it off like it was nothing. He then yanked off Cyborg's limbs, and then just brutally ripped out part of the man's head, permanently shutting down the living computer. I was also surprised that they killed Cyborg in the movie, for in the comics and in the game, he is a major player in Superman's regime and ruled with him for many years. And that is all the major deaths in the Injustice film compared to the other character deaths in the comics. This movie certainly compressed and changed a lot of the comic lore, but given the finished product, I certainly enjoyed it for what it was. To do the comics justice, or should I say injustice, I feel that the only way to best capture the full story would be to do a full-on animated series in the Injustice universe. I think this would be awesome and should definitely be rated R like the movie to capture the brutal and violent nature of this universe. Now, what I would love more than anything though is to know what you think. Did you know this about Injustice? Was there something we missed? Have you seen the movie? Have you read the comics? Played the games? Or perhaps all three? Sound off in the comments. Also be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed today's content, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon to be notified of all of our latest videos. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you are awesome and loved. God bless, and I will see you in the next one.